Kia ora, this is Bus Life in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm Nikki and I live in this bus with my partner Paul, who, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to experience this beautiful lifestyle. So shout out to you, Paulie. If you've been following along, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. We've been sharing our travels around Te Waipounamu or Aotearoa, the South Island of New Zealand. After spending 3 weeks in Invercargill, embracing the Burt Munro Challenge and exploring the Deep South, we decided to leave Invercargill and start our journey north. Looking at the NZMCA app, there is a highly recommended NZMCA park in Manapouri, and we'd love to explore Piopiotahi, Milford Sound. So that's where we're heading. So after filling up with diesel, dumping our waste and refilling our fresh water tanks, we hooked up the car, stowed away, and we headed for Lumsden, specifically the NZMCA park in Lumsden. Lumsden is about an hour north of Invercargill, 81 k's anyway. Something I forgot to mention in the last leg of our trip was that we really wanted to go to Rakiura or Stewart Island while we were in Invercargill, but because we didn't really plan much of this adventure, like at all, we didn't book anything in advance. We just thought we'd be able to organise something while we were in Invercargill because we're pretty flexible on time, but that wasn't the case because all of the accommodation on Rakiura or Stewart Island was booked out months in advance. So it was going to cost $220 each return for 3 hours on the island. So really, just to say we'd been there, nah, we flagged it. So if there's one takeaway for you from our adventures, it's that it does pay to plan a little and pre-book ahead of time if you can. Some of the really touristy activities are pre-booked months out. And in our next leg, this happens to us again. We miss out on something we really wanted to do, but you'll have to stick around to hear what that is. Anyway, we arrived in Lumsden at the NZMCA park at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We found our spot. It was pretty quiet, only a few motorhomes. We're only here for the night and don't need anything while we're here, so we didn't unhook the car, which is always a small win. No unhooking means no rehooking too. We had a quiet afternoon here and enjoyed a peaceful evening at home. The next morning we were up early as usual and ready to see what Manapouri has to offer. We were heading for the NZMCA park there because it comes highly recommended. Lumsden to Manapouri is 76 k's, and so we're expecting it'll take us about an hour. I have a primary school friend who now lives in Mosburn, and so it was a highlight to be able to toot and wave to her as we drove through her town and passed by her work on the main street. We plan to visit her for a coffee and catch up on our way back past, and I don't know, however many days. We'll be in touch anyway. When we arrived at the Manapouri NZMCA park, instantly we knew that this was different to any of the other NZMCA parks we'd been to. Still only $5 per person per night, we were welcomed on arrival by the custodian who walked us through all of the facilities, how to use the washing machines, the Kiwi Cash pay system, how to work the security barrier arm, and gave a full orientation of the park. This park was an old campground that NZMCA purchased in the recent years, so the park is fully set up with all facilities and power if you wanted it at $5 for 24 hours. I'll take you for a little walk around it later. What we really liked were the hedges that outlined each parking site, which ultimately provided some privacy between campers. But the best part was that for whatever reason, the custodian decided the best site for us was this larger corner site named Arnold Park. This was perfect. We had so much space for ourselves, and if you joined us in our Invercargill leg, you know we really appreciate having space to ourselves. The site was on a bit of a lean though, so it took a bit of back and forth, moving and adjusting levelling chocks to get it right. And you know, Paul got it perfect. Something you might not be aware of is that when you live in a long vehicle like ours at 10.5 metres, the slightest lean and the water in the shower doesn't drain properly, or the pantry door rolls open, or you have to roll up a hill in bed. So being level, particularly left to right, is kind of worth taking the extra time and effort to get it right for the sake of your comfort. If we're only there for one night, we don't spend too much time getting it spot on. But if we're there for more than one night, it's definitely worth the extra effort for overall comfort. And we plan to be here for 2 or 3 or maybe more nights, so it was definitely worth the effort. It wasn't long before we were off in the car checking out the area. Pretty much straight down to the lake though, not gonna lie, and I was in the water in no time. If you know me, you know I'll always get in fresh water. It has to be pretty cold for me to not get in there. There was no one else down there, so it was perfect. So peaceful and just soul-filling. It got pretty cold that night, and in the morning we woke to snow on the maunga, on the mountains. We could feel it, but Our diesel heater kept us snug. Although it was crisp and fresh, it was a really clear sky. It looked like it was going to be a beautiful day, so I wanted to put on a load of washing. Got to jump early before the machines get busy, because you can guarantee at a place like this, when they're as convenient as they are and it's a beautiful day, the machines are going to be in use. So let's put on some washing and I'll show you around a little bit. Like I said earlier, this place used to be a running campground, so it has everything here. There's even a playground for the kids. And did I say $5 per person per night if you're an NZMCA member? There were a few people up and about early, and the snowdrops certainly had people talking. But I was surprised by the amount of negative attitudes towards the cold. Like, can we just appreciate it for its beauty? The cool, crisp air, snow on the mountain, yet a blue morning sky? What more can we ask for? There's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing, right? Tell me you're an embracer of all weather and it's not just the sun that brings you joy. Because if you know me, I'm that girl who doesn't let seemingly bad weather shape my attitude. I'm that girl who says rain is like kisses from the sky and that you can't see beautiful snow-covered mountains without feeling the cold. Anyway, enough about that. I swam every day in Lake Manapouri and the evening swim was the most delightful. Paul got in too, and even on the day that there was snow on the Maunga. Oh, and I had some mask and snorkel practice in the calm water. Nah, it's not for me, not today, no, not my thing. Give me goggles and I'll just come up for air. We went for a drive to Tiano, which is about 20 k's from Manapouri. We needed to refill our gas bottle and get some diesel for our heater, because chilly nights, cold mornings, all of that stuff. We went for a nosy around Tiano and we went to the information centre to get some information on the Piopiotahi or Milford Sound boat cruises on the fjord. And it was worth popping in to talk to the people there rather than just going ahead and booking online, because they shared lots of extra information with us. For example, that certain boats are known for going closer to the falls than others. It'll cost around $120 each for about an hour 45 ride through the fjord and out towards where the mouth of the fjord meets the open Tasman Sea. On our way back from Tiano, we went for a nosy at the Kepler track, walked the bridge over the Waio River, and then we found a little private bush area where we just embraced the peace. So after 6 days in Manapouri, we decided we were going to head towards Piopiotahi, Milford Sound. We packed up the bus, hooked up the car, refilled our fresh water, and then we went to the dump station on site at the NZMCA park on our way out. All ready to go, we hit the road. Looking at the NZMCA app, we decided we'd be parking at one of the dock camps on the road in to Piopiotahi. There are 7 dock camps on the road in, 5 of which are suitable for large vehicles. So we planned to stop at the Deer Flat campsite because it looked beautiful, open and spacious, with some really good comments. However, when we got to the driveway for the campsite, there was a sign on the gate saying it was temporarily closed, and that wasn't in the app. We kept going and I jumped on the NZMCA app to see where our next option was, only to find that we had no reception, like for kilometres. And it was starting to get a little bit stressful, because we need to know if a place is accessible for large vehicles and big rigs like us. I managed to get a little patch of reception to pull up Cascade Creek Dock campsite, and just enough to show us that it was accessible for large vehicles. That was all we needed to know, so that was where we were heading. The good thing about dock campsites is that they are usually pretty well signposted. And so we spotted it, pulled in, and we were pleasantly surprised at the sheer size of this campsite. It was huge, over 100 sites. At $15 per person per night, unless you get a season pass and then it's cheaper, but this is actually the first dock camp that we've stayed at, so we just paid standard rates. So we chose our spot, unhooked the car, unstowed the bus, made some lunch, signed in and paid for 2 days. And then we discovered that there is no reception here, like at all. So we went for a drive in the car to find reception because we needed to book our tickets online for the boat cruise that we were going on, hopefully tomorrow. So we headed back towards where we'd lost reception, and while in the land of reception, we checked out where we were on Google Maps and looked at what was around us that we could go and explore. We were close to the Mirror Lakes, so we went there for a look. These were crystal clear lakes that reflect the views of the Earl Mountain Ranges. The beauty of nature, eh? And there were some happy fish in there too. On our way back, we stopped at the Door Pass car park and we went for a nosy along the Eglinton River. We watched some anglers having a fish on the river before heading home to our bus that was currently parked at Cascade Creek campsite in the middle of Milford Sound. Like, that's pretty damn cool. I mean, check this out. Stunning, eh? What a backdrop. Anyway, we have approximately 35 k's to travel in the morning to get us into Piopiotahi, Milford Sound. And we're going to travel the rest of the way in the car. So we allowed 45 minutes and that was plenty. There's about a 15-minute walk from where you park your car to where you go to board the boat cruises, unless you have a disability card for accessible parking, and then you park literally right outside the boat wharf. We spent the whole boat ride out on the deck of the boat, listening to the driver tell us all about the area, how the fjord was formed, the sheer drop of some of those waterfalls, some myths about the area. Yeah, we just embraced it all. It was cool. We finished with a glacial facial, which was a bloody good laugh. I couldn't get any footage because it would have absolutely soaked my phone, but a glacial facial is literally when they drive the boat under the waterfall and you just get nailed with the water. It's epic. So cool. We went for a kai at the cafe before beginning the trip back home to Cascade Creek and made a few stops on the trip home, stopping at some of the places that we couldn't stop at on the way in because we were on a time limit. The boat cruise was cool, but honestly, if you're travelling on a budget, at least travel the road into Piopiotahi because this place is something else. And most definitely should have been the 8th wonder of the world. The next day we were up early, hooking up the car, packing up the bus and hitting the road, heading for Te Anau. The no reception thing had us. At Te Anau we were going to park at the NZMCA park for a night or maybe two, we'll see. By mid-morning we were pulling into the park, picking our spot, signing in and unstowing. A few hours to chill before we had lunch and headed out for another nosy in Te Anau to see what we could find. We stumbled upon the Fiordland Vintage Machinery Museum and what a treat. Paul just loved this place. From being welcomed at the door to the stories shared in the workshop, this place was such a vibe. On Friday we planned to get moving early and hit the road back to Lumsden NZMCA Park. But shit hit the fan when my hand decided to throw a whole cup of fresh made hot coffee across the back of the bed and all over the duvet. That's one way to turn a good morning start into a not so good one. Bugger. And it took a bit to shake it off too. It wasn't until after 3 p.m. that we left Te Anau, but we were only travelling an hour. So we fueled up with diesel and dumped our waste just across the street at the gas station, before venturing on the 78 or so k's from Te Anau to Lumsden. En route I made contact with my friend in Mossburn and we planned to meet the next morning for coffee. So we continued through to Lumsden and chilled for the arvo and evening. The next morning we went back the some 20 k's to Mossburn where we had a really nice overdue catch up with my primary school friend. That afternoon I made sushi for dinner and for our on-the-road lunch tomorrow because we're going to continue heading north and we'll be en route to Queenstown. Knowing this is where we're heading and looking at the NZMCA app, there aren't a whole lot of choices in Queenstown, so I booked a large vehicle site at the Driftaway Campground in Frankton for 2 nights at this stage, but you'll have to come back for that, so we'll catch you then. And if you haven't subscribed, do so that you get the little notification bell when I post it. Kia ora!